Chapter 2. The Cafe and the Cat. Rowan woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the distinct sensation of being watched. She opened one eye. The cat sat on her chest, its face approximately 3 inches from hers, yellow eyes unblinking. "Personal space," Rowan croaked. "It's a thing." The cat didn't move. She sat up carefully, dislodging it onto the quilt, and checked her phone. 7:47 a.m. 17 new texts from Marcus, which she deleted without reading, a voicemail from her former boss that she also deleted, and a reminder she'd set for herself last night. Call lawyer, get appraisal, list property. Right, the plan. Stick to the plan. The apartment looked less mysterious in daylight and more like what it was, a cramped studio where an old woman had lived alone for decades. The papers on the desk were mostly bills and handwritten notes. The books were a chaotic mix of herb guides, poetry collections, and what looked like ledgers. One shelf held nothing but jars, dried plants, seeds, things Rowan couldn't identify and didn't particularly want to. The carved symbols on the beams were clearer now, not decorative, or at least not just decorative. Spirals and knots and shapes that tugged at something in the back of her mind, some half-remembered story her mother had told her before. Rowan shook her head. No, she wasn't going down that road. The cat had moved to the windowsill and was staring out at the street below with the intensity of a surveillance operative. "I don't have any cat food," Rowan told it. "You're going to have to fend for yourself." It glanced back at her with what she could only describe as disdain. "Don't look at me like that. I didn't ask you to move in." The cat returned its attention to the window. Fine. She'd grab breakfast somewhere in town, check out the cafe properly, and make some calls. By tonight, she'd have a clear timeline for getting out of here. Rowan pulled on yesterday's jeans and a clean shirt from her duffel bag, ran her fingers through her hair in lieu of actually styling it, and headed downstairs. The cafe looked even more overwhelming in morning light. Every detail she'd missed last night now demanded attention. The water stains on the ceiling, the crack in one of the front windows, the espresso machine's copper pipes that could probably use a deep clean, assuming the thing even still worked. She approached the machine cautiously, half expecting another vision. Nothing happened. It was just equipment, cold and silent. "See? Totally normal," she muttered. Behind her, the front door's bell chimed. Rowan spun around, heart jumping, but it was just someone passing by outside. The bell was a small brass thing hanging from the doorframe, catching the breeze through a gap in the weather stripping. She needed coffee. Real coffee, from a functioning establishment run by people who knew what they were doing. Rowan locked up and stepped out onto Harborview Lane. The morning fog was already burning off, revealing a sky so blue it looked photoshopped. The harbor spread out below, dotted with fishing boats and sailboats, and beyond that, the Pacific stretched to the horizon. It was objectively beautiful, the kind of view that would photograph well for real estate listings. She found a coffee shop 2 blocks away, Tidal Grounds, according to the hand-painted sign, and joined the small morning crowd of locals in fleece and flannel. The vibe was aggressively Pacific Northwest. Reclaimed wood, Edison bulbs, a chalkboard listing single-origin pour-overs, and oat milk options. "What can I get you?" The barista was maybe 20, with a nose ring and impressive tattoo sleeves. "Large Americano, please. Black." "You got it." The barista started working, then glanced up. "Hey, you're new in town, right?" So much for small-town anonymity. "Just passing through, settling some family business." Cool. We don't get many." The barista stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening. "Oh my God, are you Iris Hart's granddaughter?" Rowan's stomach sank. "How did you—" "You look just like her. Same eyes, same—" The barista gestured vaguely at Rowan's face. "Everyone's been wondering what would happen to Moonrise. That place has been closed for like 6 weeks, and people are losing it. Best coffee in town, hands down." A woman waiting for her drink turned around. She was maybe 60, with steel gray hair and a long braid, and the weathered face that came from decades of sun and sea air. "You're opening it back up, aren't you?" "I'm not. I don't really." "Because if you're selling," the woman continued, with a meaningful look that Rowan couldn't quite parse, "you should know that Harold Chen from the Planning Commission has been sniffing around. He's got buyers lined up who want to turn the whole waterfront into condos. Your grandmother fought him on that for years." The barista handed over Rowan's Americano. "My girlfriend's been in mourning since Moonrise closed. She says nowhere else makes a matcha latte like Miss Iris did. Said there was something special about it." "Special," the woman with the braid echoed, with a meaningful look that Rowan couldn't quite parse. "It was just coffee," Rowan said weakly. Both women stared at her. "Right," the barista said slowly. "Just coffee. Sure." Rowan paid, grabbed her drink, and escaped before anyone else could corner her with their opinions about her grandmother's cafe. The Americano was fine, perfectly adequate, the kind of coffee that did its job without inspiring loyalty or midnight cravings. She walked back towards Moonrise, sipping carefully, trying to organize her thoughts. So her grandmother had been popular. That was nice. It didn't change anything. Rowan didn't know the first thing about running a cafe, had zero interest in learning, and definitely not staying in a town where strangers felt entitled to comment on her family obligations. When she rounded the corner onto Harborview Lane, someone was sitting on the bench outside the pottery studio, watching Moonrise's front door. A girl, no, probably 19 or 20, with dark brown skin, box braids pulled into a high ponytail, and a phone in her hand. She wore black jeans, Doc Martens, and an oversized hoodie that said "Witches Get Stitches" in Gothic lettering. She looked up as Rowan approached, and her face transformed with hope. "Oh, thank God. Please tell me you're Iris's granddaughter. Please tell me you're opening the cafe." She stood, shoving her phone into her pocket. "I'm Nia. I worked here. Well, I work here. Worked? Work? Tense is complicated when your workplace is in limbo. I'm Rowan, and I know you probably want to sell, and I get it. Family business from someone you didn't really know. That's weird and complicated." But Nia took a breath. Moonrise is important, like really important, not just because the coffee is amazing, which it is, but because this town needs it. Miss Iris knew that. Rowan's head started to hurt. "I appreciate that you cared about my grandmother, but..." "It's not just about sentiment." Nia pulled out her phone, scrolling quickly. "Look, I've been running the numbers. Moonrise had steady revenue, loyal customers, and practically zero overhead because Miss Iris owned the building outright, which you do now. You could keep me on, I work cheap, and I know how to run the place, and you'd be profitable by month 2 easily." "You made a spreadsheet." "I made 3 spreadsheets. Want to see the 5-year projections?" Despite herself, Rowan was impressed. "How old are you?" 20. I'm taking a gap year before college. Or maybe not going to college. Still deciding. Miss Iris gave me this job when I really needed it. She didn't ask questions, didn't make me explain why I couldn't work at the Rusty Anchor or any of the other tourist places. She just saw me, you know? Rowan did know it, actually. That uncomfortable recognition of kindness she herself had never bothered to show. "I'm not planning to stay," Rowan said, but the words came out softer than she had intended. "Right. Yeah, of course." Nia shoved her hands in her hoodie pocket. "Well, if you need help inventorying or cleaning up or whatever before you list it, I'm around. I've got keys, but I haven't wanted to go in alone since..." She trailed off. It feels wrong without Miss Iris. Something in Rowan's chest twisted. She took a sip of her mediocre Americano to avoid responding. "Here." Nia pulled out a Sharpie and grabbed Rowan's cup, scribbling a number on it. "That's my cell. Text me if you want help, or if you change your mind, or if you just want someone to show you around town." "Thanks," Rowan managed. Nia nodded and headed down the street, Doc Martens thudding against the pavement. She looked back once, waved, and disappeared around the corner. Rowan was standing alone on the empty street, holding her cooling coffee and feeling like the villain in a story she hadn't agreed to be a part of. Her phone buzzed. A text from the lawyer. Hope you arrived safely. Let me know if you need anything. FYI, there's some documentation in Iris's desk you should review. Insurance papers, property deed, etc. Right. Documentation. She could do that. Pure mechanical task. No emotional complications required. Rowan locked Moonrise and stepped inside. The morning light through the front windows made the dust motes dance like something out of a fairy tale. She walked to the desk tucked in the corner behind the counter, an old roll-top model that looked like it predated electricity. The top was already open. Inside, stacks of papers, folders, envelopes bound with rubber bands, and in the center, a leather-bound book that definitely wasn't insurance documentation. Rowan pulled it out. The leather was soft with age, the cover unmarked except for a small symbol pressed into the lower right corner, the same spiral she'd seen carved in the apartment beams.